Hello and welcome. My name is Natalie Ariola and this is But What Does It Mean? Deconstructing Surreal Art. Before we begin today, I wanted to mention that I have prints of all of the images we've discussed thus far, including the one we'll be talking about today, available in my online shop. If you enjoy my work and these videos, purchasing a print is a fantastic way of showing your support. The link is in the video description and also in my bio. I want to start today's discussion with a fun story about Salvador Dalí and Thomas Edison. You may have heard of something called a hypnagogic state. This is basically that sort of half sleep, half dream state we experience when we're on the verge of falling asleep. In this state, our brains are producing theta waves, and this is what brings on the sort of free-form flow of thought that is free from the inhibitions of full consciousness that we experience at this time. Many great thinkers have attempted to tap into this state in order to access the subconscious mind and the freedom of thought it provides. So there are two stories, one about Thomas Edison and one about Salvador Dalí. In the Edison story, it is said that he would sit in his chair, having placed plates on the floor beneath him and holding ball bearings in each hand. He would then allow himself to drift off towards sleep, and just as he was about to fall asleep, the bearings would drop, clinging on the plates below and snapping him back into full consciousness. The idea being that he would then be able to access some of these thoughts still flowing through his mind from the theta state, and possibly even to stay in this state for a few moments. This would allow him to come up with new ideas and experience enhanced creativity. So the Dalí story is almost identical to this. He actually tells it himself in his book, 50 Secrets of Magic Craftsmanship. The only real difference is that he would hold a key in his hand rather than a ball bearing. The reason I'm telling you this is because dream states and the subconscious mind were very important to the surrealists. And also because the image that we are going to discuss today arose from something similar to this hypnagogic state. Today we are going to talk about my image, Suspension of Disbelief. Let's start by talking about the title. In literature, the willful suspension of disbelief is the idea that in order to go along with certain less realistic storylines, one must suspend critical analysis of their plausibility. However, the idea of suspension of disbelief does not only apply to fiction. In fact, I am going to suggest that hope is the ultimate form of suspension of disbelief. When it comes to what we believe is possible, both for ourselves and the world, the only thing we have to support our conclusions are our own experiences. We can also look to the experiences of trusted others. However, no matter how compelling, these will always take a backseat to our own experiences. The problem is that our experiences are limited. So, how do we take risks and enact change in our lives when we have little to no reason to believe we will be successful? Most of the time, we have to act on suspension of disbelief. We have to set aside our uncertainty about the results of our actions and choose to act anyways. The images we have discussed thus far have all included some very intentionally selected symbolism, but this image is different. This is something that just came to me. I saw in my mind's eye exactly this scene, and I knew that it was something that I wanted to create. For me, the image is related to the idea of suspension of disbelief. I would like to look at this image as a whole rather than breaking down the individual symbols as we have in previous episodes. If you've been on my email list for a while, you've probably heard me talk about this image, and you probably also know that I am a recovered alcoholic. This image is very much a representation of the frame of mind which both drove me into and carried me out of my alcoholism. So what do we have in this image? We have a female torso submerged underwater. The head has been removed, and there are flowers which are either growing from the open cavity or have been placed there like in a vase. The flowers are dried and dying, but they are breaking through the surface of the water into the open air. What questions do we ask ourselves when we see this image? Well, first we might ask, why is she underwater? Could it have something to do with what we think when we hear phrases like keeping your head above water or treading water? Images of being underwater are often associated with drowning, both physically and mentally. So what about the roses? The roses are dried and dying, but they are also the only part of the image, aside from the sky, which stands above water. Flowers are often symbols of hope because they represent spring, rebirth, and regrowth. Given what we've discussed so far, I would like to hear your interpretation of this image. What does this image mean to you? How does the title guide your interpretation? I want to thank you again so very much for being here. I love you, and I love that I am able to share these ideas with you. Discussing these concepts and ideas about being a human being and the human condition really truly excites me and gets me inspired, and I hope it does the same for you. Be sure to like this video, and if you're on YouTube, subscribe to my channel. Also, don't forget to leave your interpretation in the comments. Thank you so much again, and I will see you next time.